Okay, here we go. I had a lot of thoughts. I just had an encounter at the gym. Literally just got back in. My hair's not super crazy. I've cooled down a little bit. But this encounter, and it wasn't even with me. It was just like an overheard conversation. And I just want to call this mini rant of mine. People talking about racial issues that they don't understand or just shouldn't talk about. Why I wouldn't say shouldn't talk about. They just don't get it. So why are you opening your mouth on a subject? So I was at the gym. Had a lot of thoughts about this. I was at the gym and I was checking in and I overheard this younger lady. And I want to say by younger, maybe 30s max. I would say 35 max. I don't know. But I think just from what I had gathered from previous little chit chats, I think she's in her 30s sometime. She was talking with a coworker, and she was complaining. That's all I heard. I just stepped into the middle of a conversation when I was signing in. Overheard her talking about her being frustrated with the censorship in America, and being annoyed with it. And then she brought up one of the things she used as evidence during her own mini rant was the fact that Disney Plus had taken off Peter Pan off of its its thing that you couldn't watch it anymore because it was considered racist. And she just didn't understand how Peter Pan could be considered racist. She was just censorship. I don't get it. What is this world coming to? A lot of stuff along that lines. And I just of course, my ears perked up and I'm what is going on? And so my first thought was, I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure you can watch Peter Pan. I just think they put a little blip in front of it saying hey, this was made in the 50s, and the 50s wasn't exactly known for being racially conscientious. So our views have changed since then, and maybe the portrayal of certain Native American characters isn't exactly accurate or representative of how they are, or puts them in the best light. Maybe kind of steers towards some stereotypes that aren't exactly flattering, and maybe Native Americans aren't happy with them. So we just want to acknowledge that. And I think they summarized that into a few short paragraphs or even just a few little words before the movie. Do I think they took it down? I don't know. I think maybe they did at one point, but you can watch it. I literally was I'm pretty sure I saw that not that long ago on Disney Plus. So I literally signed in, and still hearing this conversation, I stepped to the side and I looked it up on my phone and I was yeah, there it is. Peter Pan. You can watch it right there. But I just didn't know if that was the environment to me as this 20-some-year-old to be hey, sorry, I was eavesdropping, but what you're saying is inaccurate and wrong for these reasons. I didn't. I was just trying to get in, get my workout, leave. But it just really bugged me because I'm what is so, I guess, hard to understand that if you're not someone of that race or whatever, why do you think that you can just speak for them? And I don't want to point fingers and say, oh, stereotypical white Karen or whatever. I'm trying to understand, because I would never try to speak on the issues of Native Americans and how they were portrayed back in 1953 by Disney. That's just not my place. That's not for me to say, oh, I think that's wrong, because it doesn't affect me. And I think it's mind-boggling as well, because I think people equate Disney, let's say, Disney taken off completely. Let's say, hey, we are not putting it on Disney Plus. We are no longer streaming this. I think they are equating it to Disney going around door to door with Peter Pan movie hunters and like burning every single copy of it. Because you can go to the store and buy that movie. There are VHSs. I know for all you Gen Zers, there are VHSs that still exist. There are DVDs that exist. There are Blu-rays that exist. Physical copies that still exist that you can buy and purchase it and watch it on your own leisure. Like, you can do all that, whether or not it's available on the Disney Plus app. You can still do it. I think they just like envision them just like destroying every single copy because it's racist and censorship in America. I just don't get that line of thinking. It's like really mind-boggling to me, because that's really like the hyperbole that I was hearing surrounding this conversation. It was just like, it's like that's what's in their head. It's like they're taking it all away. It's the censorship. It's like, no. It's like, if you're going to, I don't want to assume, and I don't want to bring politics into it. I think it's just like a thought thing. But let's just go down this path real quick. So let's say that you, as a conservative white woman, like, argue for businesses to be able to do what they want. We don't want them to be able to have to bake the cake for this gay couple. We do not like that. But then when a company takes the free right that you fought for, when they take the free right and they take it and they're like, hey, we don't want to put up this movie that we made back in 1953 because it's kind of racist now. Then you'd be like, oh, censorship. This is what's wrong with America. I think, no, if anything, they're doing exactly what you said. They're doing the whole thing that America is. Like, it's a freedom of choice. We can do what we want, It's the market gets to decide. Capitalism and all that fun stuff. But it's just like wild, like, to see like, oh, do this because I want this. But then when you do it, you're like, oh, not like that. No, you're taking what I said and doing the wrong thing with it. It's aggravating to listen to. And then it's just like to take that whole, like I said, like the burning of the books, kind of like with the Dr. Seuss thing that's been going on. I think with the Dr. Seuss Foundation or whatever it's called, saying that they're not gonna print some of their older books because it depicts people like insensitively or racist. Like, it depicts them in a not fair light, or even racist light. Like, we're not gonna print it anymore. We are no longer printing it. And I think people really took that and heard, we're gonna burn every single copy of this book because we no longer want it to exist on planet Earth. We're gonna shoot it off into space or something. I think that's what people heard when realized, like, no, we're gonna stop printing it. You can still go buy it. I'm sure you can find every single Dr. Seuss book at a Goodwill, or like anywhere, any place that books are sold, libraries. You can still find this stuff. I just don't think it's wrong for people, or even companies, more importantly, to say, hey, I'm reflecting on my past self, and I acknowledge that maybe it was different, and I'm going to change and go forward. Because, like, isn't that what you want? Like, isn't change supposed to be like the whole thing? And even if you disagree with it, like I said before, be like, okay, cool. Businesses can do what they want with their product because that's America. We've given them the freedom of choice. And I just think it's really silly for us to turn around and say, oh, like, we gave you the freedom of choice, but don't do it like that because that's called censorship. No. Ooh. It just, something about that got under my skin. And I know I'd said, like, I didn't feel like it was my place. And maybe it really was my place. But also, I've kind of realized since, like, being in the environment I'm around, like, people don't care about that. Like, they'd rather be right than correct. And I think ultimately that's, like, what it was coming down to. And I think even if I had spoke up, like, I was thinking about this on the whole drive home, even if I had spoke up, would it have made a difference? I don't think so. And that's also kind of sad. That's kind of stinks to think about that. Hey, you can present someone with like a different light, and I don't think they'd see it that way. So anyway, I've ranted. I did not expect it to be this long. I think it's almost 10 minutes long. But yeah, that's just where I was at. That was my thoughts. This could be the start of a conversation. I'm not really one of those people be like, oh, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. But it's just more of my thoughts, putting them out into the world. And yeah, I don't know if this aggravates anyone else. I don't know if this frustrates anyone else. Maybe you totally disagree with me. I think I'm being very reasonable and correct, but that's because most often I think I'm being very reasonable and correct. But yeah, I felt this way, wanted to rant about it. I almost went Facebook Live, but too many hiccups and glitches with that. So I thought I'd just hop on here, run inside, hit record, start talking, and now I'm going to stop recording and stop talking and actually bring in my stuff out of the car and go take a shower because I'm still covered in sweat. So, anywho, thanks for listening. If you made it this far, awesome on you. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you.